Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
So, I don't know if we want to get to it off the top, but I've been playing more Elden Ring, so we'll probably talk about more of that. And then we also have news. There's a bunch of games that are coming out. March is pretty busy this year. February was busy. March is busy. And then there was also the PlayStation State of Play, so we'll probably go over that as well.
Yes.
What do you want to start with? You want to just jump into the news?
Let's do some news. Have the back half be Elden Ring chat, because I have been experiencing that game as well.
Okay. Yeah.
F-Zero X. Is that have you ever played an F-Zero game?
I have played the Super NES one. That's the only one I've played. And I like that well enough. I think it's cool that they are bringing more games to the Nintendo Online stuff, especially the 64 stuff, since they launched that.
Did you pay for the 64 upgrade?
I did, yeah. And to be honest, I kind of want that wireless Nintendo 64 controller, but it's like always sold out, so you can't get it. But no, over the weekend, like a week or two ago, I had family in town, and my sister brought her Switch, and she was playing Zelda, like Ocarina of Time, and I was like, "Oh, you subscribe to this too? That's cool." So yeah, it's I really like what they're doing with it, even though I know like some people don't like the emulation a little bit. They don't like the bars on the sides and all that. I don't really care about that. It doesn't bother me that much, but I think it's a great way to revisit the games because you have like suspend features.
Yes.
And I used those quite a bit to get through Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Country 2, which I played Donkey Kong Country quite a bit as a child, but I don't think I ever actually finished the game, like ever beat it, and I did as an adult finally.
Whoa.
And I made big use of that suspend feature to get through it. So
some great music in that game.
There is great music in those games. That's very good. But no, I may check out F-Zero X, but I don't know that I will spend very much time playing that, but I think it's cool that it's being added.
I agree. Racing games in general, kind of, I take a pass on unless they're really cool, like the old ones we were talking about, like Cruis'n USA or Beetle Adventure Racing.
Yeah.
But and F-Zero X kind of fits into that category because it's got an interesting take on it, but
yeah, I think so too. Like every once in a while, they'll bring out something new, like when they did Cruisin' Blast, and I'll like play a bunch of that just because it feels like it kind of reminds me of those older games. But I don't play a lot of racing games, but I might play an actual like retro racing game. So
Amazon.
Yeah, moving on. So Amazon is reportedly working on a God of War live-action series by the creators of The Expanse TV show.
We both love The Expanse, and we both love God of War. What are your thoughts on this?
I almost wish that the creators of The Expanse show were the ones working on the Mass Effect TV series that Amazon is also working on, but regardless... I like The Expanse, so I kind of I have a little bit higher hopes knowing that they're involved.
Now, we were talking about this, just texting about it over the week, but what era would you say they're going to go for with this God of... Do you think it's going to be like original games, or do you think it's going to be the new one where he has a kid and he's like all grizzled?
I feel like it makes more sense to do the more recent one just because that's like what people are seeing and experiencing now, and so it ties in a little bit better.
I agree, and one of the things that makes me think that is because ever since Lost, every TV show loves to have like long flashbacks in every episode, and so I could see this being like two concurrent stories where it's him in the present and then half of the episode is flashing back to him. That's the other thing about the show. I feel like it has to have a pretty good budget, because if they do old school stuff, even if they do stuff from the current generation of God of War games, you have to, go big. He's like, running on the world serpent and like fighting titans. He's like climbing up giant things that basically make the world.
Yeah, I'm curious how they will handle that.
I will be very curious to see like what, and also, I mean, God of War is known for being super crazy violent, like ripping things in half and whatnot. So
yeah,
if it's just like a drama, if they like boil it down to just two people in the woods, that's going to be kind of a bummer.
Hopefully they won't do that. But
they treated The Expanse pretty well. I mean, you read more of the books, or any of the books. I didn't read any of them, but they like stayed pretty true to that story, right?
Yeah, and there were some things that I think that the show actually handled better than the books did. But the important thing about The Expanse was they had the writers of the books involved with the TV show. I didn't read too much into this news. I don't know if like how closely they're going to be working with the creators of God of War. So I don't know for sure if it's going to be a similar thing or not. But who do you think they get to play Kratos?
I don't know, man. You and I both were talking about this last week even. We love Stargate and Christopher Judge. Yeah. I feel like still looks good.
Yeah, I feel like and definitely if they go with the modern God of War games, like he's supposed to be older.
He's got the look, man. Like he's very intimidating, and
he's got the voice, obviously.
Yeah, and he could definitely get in shape, like the God shape or whatever. I think he could definitely do it.
He was in incredible shape when he was playing Teal'c in Stargate SG-1, so for sure he could get back to that, and you wouldn't have to do much, and he would just look the part. So
he would be my number one pick. We were I think you were speculating that it could be The Rock, because he was talking about bringing a video game franchise to life, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that is this one, because I think he wants complete control of that. The Rock, I think, is bad.
I was going to say, like, I don't want that to be the case, but just because there was that, him talking about how he was working on a video game series, obviously you kind of, it's easy to speculate that, God of War is an obvious choice, and now there's confirmation that a God of War series is in the works, so I think you would want his production company
to be in charge, and so the fact that it's the creator of The Expanse, I think, rules The Rock out, because I think that takes too much creative control away from him.
I would rather they go with Christopher Judge, because he has the voice, and like I feel like he could do a good job with it.
He would do a great job.
Plus, like, The Rock is too recognizable. Like, I don't want to watch a God of War series and just see The Rock. I'm like, oh, what's this series with The Rock in it? Like, I want to see Kratos, and I feel like because Christopher Judge is like less like visually present in media these days
currently,
I feel like it would be much easier for him to like take on the part without people seeing somebody else other than Kratos. So
we shall see. The next thing is a little bit about the state of play, which we'll talk about in a second, but that Forespoken game, which had a showing at the state of play, got delayed until October. I actually didn't see this.
Yeah, so I don't remember when this came out, but I did see that it had gotten delayed. And yeah, we'll talk maybe more about it during the state of play, because there was a trailer for it during that. But yeah, delayed to October, which I don't remember the initial like planned release date, but there's too much happening already in this month, and I'm going to need time to like work through some of it. So if they want to push more games back to October, I'm fine with that.
So we don't really talk about world events on the podcast, but definitely some are happening right now. You have to admit that world events are occurring.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there's a game that Nintendo was going to release, Advanced Wars, where I believe the first part, like the first story beat in the first Advanced Wars, is the in-game like iteration of Russia starts invading people. and then there's a war about it. And so they were like, you know what? We should not release that right now. We're going to go ahead and pause. We're going to press pause on this.
Yeah, so it's not like development related. It's more world event related, but they are pushing this game back indefinitely. It was supposed to come out on April 8th. And so if you're literally playing a game in which Russia's invading somebody while like you're seeing headlines about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, so yeah,
which is kind of a bummer because I think I was maybe going to pick this up because I like those tactics style games, and I've heard so many good things about this one, but I guess I will have to wait.
I'm in the same boat. I was planning on picking this up just because I'd heard so much good things about it, and so my curiosity was definitely piqued, and so I was planning on picking it up. But here again, similar to Forespoken, there's so much out right now and so much about to be out in the next couple of weeks that I'm not super bummed to have to wait on this, to be honest, but definitely understand it.
What's the Stadia news?
So Stadia, it turns out, even though there was recent news that maybe Stadia is getting less focus from Google, they are not done talking about stuff happening with Stadia, which I think is probably a good sign. But there was actually, I saw on Twitter, somebody was commenting on that, and the Stadia Twitter account was like, Stadia's not going anywhere. Don't feel bad if you've bought games through Stadia. Also, tune in to the Games Developer Summit on March 15th. Which,
GDC.
So yeah, I mean, that's mainly for developers, so I don't normally look to something like that and get excited about like what types of game announcements or like games industry announcements we're gonna hear, but they're saying tune into that, so maybe there will be something. But they did say that City Skylines, Overcooked All You Can Eat, and Golf with Your Friends are all coming to Stadia, I believe this month. I forget exactly when they said this was coming off the top of my head, but
did you ever play City Skylines?
I did not.
There was a period of time like 5 years ago where I was super into that game and would play it a ton. But then I kind of fell off of it, but they kept updating it. Like there's been a ton of feature drops for it. It's a nice little indie city builder that is very relaxing to play. I definitely recommend it. There's also a VR version, which looks super fun to play.
Do you think they'll have like touch controls on mobile? Is this a game that would make sense for that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess you could. Yeah, I mean, I think it could work with touch controls.
I mean, I haven't looked into it, so I don't know whether they've confirmed or said anything about that. It just, I know that those style of games tend to seem like they would make more sense for touch controls. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Yeah, I haven't played the game, but I know people love the Overcooked game, so pretty cool to get that to come to Stadia. So, what's this you put in about Steam Deck running Windows?
We talked about it a little bit when we had our big Steam Deck talk, but something holding it back was you could load Windows onto a Steam Deck, but there weren't official drivers for like the graphics and everything to get Windows to function properly on Steam Deck. But they released them, so you can now install Windows. You can't partition in any way. You can't do like half SteamOS, half Windows. But you can, boot Windows and load it up, and that allows you to play stuff you can't play on just SteamOS, like Destiny 2 and things like that, where they won't allow you to. So that's pretty cool. It really opens up the thing even more to be just a personal computer.
Yeah.
So if you have a Steam Deck, if you're one of the lucky few and you like to tinker with stuff, now is the time to check out Windows because you have the official drivers that will actually get it to work with your Steam Deck.
I'm still waiting on that invite to buy my Steam Deck. I think it's coming probably at some point in April. I'm in the Q2 batch, and I know they've been rolling them out. So like every week, more people from that are in the Q1 batch are getting their invites. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer, but I'm very excited about getting a Steam Deck. There are so many games I'm looking through my library. I'm like, ooh, I want to try this on the Steam Deck. Ooh, I want to try that.
Do you think you will check out Hollow Knight when you have your Steam Deck?
That's one of the ones I've been thinking about, that I've been kind of eyeing as, ooh, that would be cool to try to play on the Steam Deck. So
I would love to talk to you about that. Yeah, if you start playing it, that would be great for me. Speaking of waiting for things, Overwatch 2 is still a thing, I guess. And they're doing a beta, which you can sign up for, that I believe is happening in April.
Really? I had not seen this.
Yeah, so if you're interested in Overwatch 2, they are doing a beta. The game is still in development. So there's a link that'll be in our show notes you can take a look at. And if it's for you, it's going to be good. I don't know. I can't really get excited about Overwatch for whatever reason. I was so into it when it first came out. I know you go in for the live events that they do every year. But it's been a very long time since I played, and I feel like I would just get destroyed if I jumped back in.
I feel like jumping into arcade mode or like quick play is not super intimidating. So you could probably jump in and just like play, I don't know, like a defense character or like a healer and just like get your feet wet again. But
one of the things I was kind of interested in about Overwatch 2 was there was going to be more PvE stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff I'm looking forward to.
This beta is strictly PvP, so they're not.
And that confuses me, to be honest, because my understanding with Overwatch 2 was that it was just going to be like it was going to be crossplay with Overwatch 1, and so it seemed like the 2 aspect of Overwatch 2 was more the PvE stuff, and that PvP was largely just Overwatch 1 PvP. But maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know.
They added a ping system like
Apex Legends.
Yeah, like Apex Legends. There's a new hero. There's
I'm not
four,
sure
there's
why
be
you
4
would
new maps.
Need that, but all right.
Also good. Yeah, I'm not sure why. There's not really like looting happening.
Yeah.
There's a new mode called Push. It's going to be 5v5.
I guess they do have new maps, and if they've got a new mode and some hero reworks, I guess maybe it makes sense to do a beta for that. But
the last thing I want to talk about in news, do you care about Brandon Sanderson at all? Did you see that Kickstarter thing?
I don't know who that is, so no.
Brandon Sanderson is a prolific author. He finished the Wheel of Time series. Like, the guy who wrote Wheel of Time was just like, you're so good. I want you to finish I've died. I'm dead. And basically he, in his will or whatever.
Oh, I know this guy, the Way of Kings author.
Yes.
Okay.
So he is known for the Cosmere, which is his like Marvel Cinematic Universe of books. All of his books take place basically in this same realm or whatever, and so like characters will cross over from different series, and he writes a ton of books. And I read Way of Kings, and I think I started to read the sequel to it. But I have kind of fallen off because they're they're long books, and
they're super long.
Really read. Yeah. But he broke a bunch of records because he made a Kickstarter that was like, hey, in pandemic, I wrote like 5 secret books. And so here's this Kickstarter where I'll just give you the books directly. And he raised like $25 million or
Good
something. Because people are super into these books. And like, I guess like the side ones, there's like side books, and then the main series is the Way of Kings series, and that's, I guess, what progresses. It's like the Avengers kind of his books, where like whenever one of those comes out, a bunch of people, get together, and the main plot, like the Thanos plot of the whole series, progresses.
Sure.
I read that one where people like ate metal to give people powers. I don't remember what that was called. Mistborn, I think it was called. But I have for a long time been like, man, I should really start reading these books again, because I did enjoy The Way of Kings. But this is a thing where like one of the tiers was like $250, and then that's where you get like hardback covers of each of the books, and like special swag bags or something like that. But previous to this, I think the Kickstart record holder was the Pebble watch. Remember the Pebble?
Yeah.
It was like the first smartwatch. My brother got one that he had forever, but this blew that out of the water. And so it was just an interesting thing. It's you don't really see people. There's not like books really in the current culture. Like the last time I can think about like people being super into books was like when Harry Potter books would come out and everybody would read them.
Yeah,
and I feel like there hasn't really been a
cultural moment around books.
So I don't know. It was an interesting thing that I saw, an interesting Kickstarter record that was broken, and I maybe will start reading these Cosmere books again because people are so into them.
Yeah, this is like something that I would love to get as like an audiobook so I can like listen to it while I'm like working out or doing my on my treadmill or something like that. But yeah, I think it's cool that they have like sort of collector's edition stuff because I have gotten more into like collector's items for like stuff that I like in the last few years. So it's cool that that's going to be available for people who are like super into it.
I mean, I'm always looking at trying to find, if I ever go to a Half Price Books, which I haven't done in a long time, I'm always trying to look for a super old version of that book Neuromancer from back in the day because I had an older version of it, but I lent it to someone and I never got it back. And so I have a new version that just like has like a glossy cover that I don't like. I love old books, and the fact that this is going to, like, you don't just have to go to Barnes & Noble and get like a weird mass-produced thing. Like, he's actually taking the time to make these hardback books look all cool and have like interesting almost add-ons to them, I think is really cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
But this is a video game podcast, so we need to get back to video games.
Speaking of fantasy, sort of, we can go over some of the stuff that's out this week. Some of the stuff is out this week as we're recording it, and some of the stuff is coming up and will be out the week this podcast goes up. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok, that DLC is out. I've seen some reviews for it. It seems pretty good. I have to say, our friend Mike had told me just like this last week that he is in over 100 hours on Assassin's Creed Valhalla now, and he has not finished the main campaign.
They've been adding to it consistently. Haven't they done a bunch of DLC drops for it?
I feel like they've added a lot to it already, but there's now a new DLC that's out. It's insane to me how big these games are and just how much more stuff they add to them over time, while they're also like concurrently working on whatever the next Assassin's Creed thing is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's like, I'm gonna try to do as much of the side quests and all of that I can before going back to finish the main campaign, because he wants to be like super overpowered by the time he gets there. So I don't know if he's gonna be like ready for more Valhalla with this DLC, but my brother also started playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Stadia recently, and he opened up the map and he was telling me that he did not realize what he was getting himself into just with how big the game is. So
it's a pretty good value for $60. Like,
for sure,
you get so much content.
It's such a huge game. You could be like, this could be like the one game you buy this year and you just have your video game time like allotted for the rest of the year, basically. Now, we talked a little bit about this offline, but Have a Nice Death is out in early access, and this is, I kind of like the art style of it. It's a side-scrolling roguelike.
It's a roguelike.
Yeah.
I loved the art style of it. I watched a trailer for it because I didn't realize it came out, and I was like, man, this looks great. This almost looks like a Hollow Knight style thing. But then I watched one of the streamers that I watch play through it, and it is definitely more Dead Cells, and it is very much in early access. Like, he, I think, got to like the second area, but everything kind of looks samey, at least the backgrounds. There's like kind of color shifts, but as far as I could tell, it is definitely in early access. Like, it's a playable game, and there aren't too many glitches, but I think it's gonna, I would say give it a while until it gets out of early access. I didn't pick it up because I don't know. If I wanted to play a game like this, I'd probably invest in learning about Dead Cells.
Yeah.
But The art style is very beautiful
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So this game I think is $15. I don't know if it's gonna go up once it leaves early access or not, but I don't know. I feel like I have discovered something about myself more recently, that I am more into those Metroidvania style 2D games than I am the roguelike ones.
I think I am as well. Hollow Knight, I think, before Hollow Knight, I would have said I was into roguelikes more, but having tasted the sweet, sweet nectar of Hollow Knight,
for me, it was Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I played.
That's something I should check out. I have the first one. I have the Blind Forest, but I've heard that Will of the Wisps is better because it takes a lot from Hollow Knight. So I should check out that next, I think.
You would love it for sure. Like I had a lot of fun with it. I think I prefer the art style to it. It's a little bit more colorful, which I guess is not hard to say because Hollow Knight's pretty grayscale.
Well, there are some green areas.
Okay. But yeah, no, I think you would love it, especially after playing Hollow Knight. You will probably enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, I will. Maybe I will pick it up this week. I have been looking at it longingly, but I just have not. Is it on Switch?
It is on Switch. In fact, that's what I played it on.
That might clinch it for me. I might pick that up.
Yeah, you should definitely play it and then let me hear about how much you love it. So,
although, not to skip ahead, Paradise Killer is also coming out. I don't know what that is, but Tunic is coming out this week, and that's something I am kind of anticipating. That's something I was planning on picking up.
Yeah, so Tunic is one that we have had our eye on since it was announced like a few E3s ago. Like this was
so
several
long
years ago.
I feel like it's been so long.
Yeah, it's a different world now because so much has happened since this game was announced. But no, this looks kind of like a little bit of a top-down Zelda clone with sort of a fox creature that you're playing. And I remember, I think it was maybe last year during E3, there was like a bunch of like gameplay demos that people like from like Game Informer and places like that were putting videos out for, just kind of talking about some of the gameplay and such. And I don't know, you think you'll pick this up?
I think so. I'm definitely going to watch someone play it before I pick it up just to make sure it's what I think it is. But if it is what I think it is, I could see myself... I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to come out on Switch for the time being because it's a Microsoft exclusive, so I'll have to play it on PC. But
which I haven't checked, but I feel like... Is this a Game Pass game?
Oh, I don't know.
It's worth looking into. I've not checked, so I don't know for sure. But if it is on Game Pass, then I will for sure give it a shot. But I'm so busy with so many other games right now. It's true. Tough.
Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin was at the next thing we're going to talk about, the PlayStation State of Play. But I don't know what this is. It looked crazy to me. Is this something you're going to check out? It comes out on March 18th.
There was a demo out for this, I believe, last year, and I think they did an updated demo that was they were sort of promoting during the PlayStation State of Play. But yeah, this is supposed to be that tougher, like a little bit more Souls-like Final Fantasy game, if you recall.
Yeah.
I tried the demo last year very briefly, and I was like, pretty sure this is not for me. But with me having played so much Elden Ring now, I'm a little bit more like, is this something I should check out? But it's like one of those things that's like sort of a meme at this point. People are sort of joking a lot about it, but like the MinMax group has been talking about this since the PlayStation State of Play, and they're like, okay, so everybody laughed at this game initially, and now it's more like one of those, almost like a bad movie that people consider good, you know what I mean? Like where it's bad, but people like it. So maybe it's like moving into that territory for some people. Definitely something I will watch a review and maybe watch some gameplay of. I don't think I will jump into this right away, but I'm a little bit curious about it. Just because the whole like Souls-like thing, like when you tag that onto a game, in previous years I would have been like, nope, I'm out. but I feel like my whole world has shifted in the recent weeks. So it's now something I will be like, oh, I'm curious now. So I don't know. We'll see. Oh, and just to mention Paradise Killer, this was a game that made my top 10 like 2 years ago, I think. It was not last year. It was maybe 2 years ago. This is like that first person game that has like a real like vaporwave look to it. It has a great soundtrack. Came out on Switch and PC, I believe. It's now, or maybe it was just PC. I don't remember. But it is getting a console release for PS4, PS5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series X. And it's also going to get a physical release through one of those, I forget which one it is, but it's one of the those specialty shops, like limited run.
Oh, like
I don't think it's limited run, but one of them is doing a physical release for it. So that's out there if you played Paradise Killer and you liked it. I thought it was a pretty cool game. I did not finish it though.
Let's talk about the state of play, which they dropped there the day before. It was very Nintendo-like. They were like, hey, tomorrow, basically, check out this 20-minute state of play focusing on Japanese developers. And they opened it with a crazy game.
Yeah, Exoprimal. So everybody was saying this was Dino Crisis, and
that's what I thought.
And then it was not. I never played those games and was not aware enough to immediately go, oh, this is just Dino Crisis. I just heard about people being confused that it was not Dino Crisis later.
I know what Dino Crisis is, I believe. And so I was like, whoa, this is a really crazy direction for Dino Crisis. Because I think what Dino Crisis was basically Resident Evil with dinosaurs in space.
Oh, really? That sounds interesting.
So, I think you were on a space station, and it was very much like old-style Resident Evil, where the camera aim goal was fixed, and you were wandering around, and every once in a while there would be a crazy dinosaur that you would have to fight. I believe is what it is. And so I was like, oh, that's crazy. They've turned it into Anthem. But in fact, it is neither of those things. It is a new thing, even though it is also made by Capcom.
Yeah, so I'm very confused as to what this game is, but I'm a little bit curious because it looks like there's a giant portal and you have just velociraptors just raining out of it and just flooding the streets of some dystopian future world. And you're in these you're either really heavily armored or you're in some sort of mech suit and you're just shooting them and fighting them.
Do you remember this reminded me of? Do you remember the PS3 tech demo where they put a bunch of ducks in a bathtub?
No, I've forgotten about that completely.
It reminded me of that, basically, where they were just look at how powerful the PS3 is. We can just press this button and thousands of rubber ducks will land in this bathtub. Isn't this crazy? I think it was PS3. And it looks very similar. It's just they pressed a button and a bunch of dinosaurs just started dropping out of this portal. It was very funny to see.
It was pretty funny. This was one of those, we were just talking about Stranger Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, and how that's kind of become a meme, and people are just sort of oh, it's a bad thing that I am interested in. I feel like this just right out of the gate immediately was just entering that territory. And you're just
they nailed the tone because the first thing you see is a weather forecast by an insane robot looking thing that's just hey, here's your dinosaur forecast. Looks like there's going to be a lot of dinosaurs today. And I was like, man, I'm on board for this.
As long as it's over the top and it doesn't take itself seriously at all, I feel like they will get the tone of this thing just right. So it's not coming out until next year, though.
Yeah, that's probably the thing I was most excited about as far as the state of play. Nothing really hit that high for me afterwards. But they talked about that Ghostwire Tokyo. Do you think you're going to pick this up? That's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this one's tough because it's coming out the same day as Kirby and the Forgotten Land,
you're right.
Which I am more interested in playing at this current moment. But I'm interested in this game. I do think I will pick it up eventually. I don't know if I will pick it up right away. But it's interesting to me. I just remember that initial reveal, and they brought out what's her name, the developer. Nakamura something.
Yeah, she was so excited about it.
Yeah.
Although she doesn't work there anymore, I guess.
No, she opened her own studio. I actually recently saw IGN put up a video where they had like gone to meet her and she was showing off her new, like the building she had gotten to like house her new studio. So I don't know what they're working on, but yeah, she got a lot of fans from that E3. So, but yeah, I think I will probably play that game eventually. It's just one of those things where right now I have so much on my plate that it's going to be tough. And like having a day like March 25th where 3 games are all coming out on top of each other. I don't care about Borderlands or Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which is the 3rd game that's coming out on March 25th, but I do want to play both Kirby and Ghostwire, so we'll see how it goes.
So then Stranger of Paradise was announced. There's a demo out now, and then Forespoken, which we just talked about, which is now coming out in October. Then they had a weird arena battle game about where you're playing as Gundams, Gundam Evolution.
Yeah, this looked like sort of an Overwatch game, but with a Gundam.
That's what I thought.
Skin on top of it.
Like a hero shooter, but you're all Gundams.
Yeah, which I don't know. I'm not... Like, I think Gundam is cool, but also I was not super loving the art style.
Yeah.
It felt like it was lacking color or saturation, and it was a little bit bland to look at. But
then, speaking the opposite of that, something very colorful.
Yeah.
They talked about the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which is a bunch of old Ninja Turtles games that are now coming out, which is cool. I like those side-scroller beat-em-ups. I don't really play them anymore, but as a child, I played a ton of them.
It's one of those things where when I was a kid, I would have loved something like that because I thought the side-scrolling beat-em-ups were very, very cool, especially if you could like play one in the arcade. Like you'd go to Pizza Hut and they would have one at the
Simpsons
arcade. But I don't know if I will pick this up, but I think it's cool that it exists because I know a lot of people are going to be excited about this one. So
I agree.
I don't know what Gigabash is. It's
that kaiju brawler. I'm not super interested in it, but I guess it is coming out in 2022. What I'm more interested in is this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle.
I have not seen this show, I have to admit.
It's very good and very different season to season. I think it had an insane number of playable characters, this game did. If I was into fighting games, I would definitely check this out. I'm not super into fighting games, but
correct me if I'm wrong, but was this the same... Maybe I made this up. Is this the same developer as that Dragon Ball Fighters game?
Oh.
Maybe we should look that up so I don't just like steer everyone in the wrong direction, but...
It definitely has a similar aesthetic as far as like the 3D cel-shaded kind of a thing.
And that game was great. Like Dragon Ball Fighters was so good.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a crazy show that I highly recommend. I haven't seen the last 2 seasons. I stopped, I don't remember, Unbreakable Diamond. I don't even know. I'm a bad JoJo's Bizarre Adventures fan.
No, I don't think it was. I think that I'm thinking of a different developer. So I don't think that is the case, but
I think this will be fun to watch. But I don't know. I don't really play fighting games that much, but it is very cool that it's happening.
Yeah, I don't really play fighters that much either. I was way more interested in the next thing, Trek to Yomi. This is one of my most anticipated games this year. I didn't realize it was coming out in spring, so they didn't give I don't think they gave an exact release date. They just said spring 2022.
It's imminent.
But yeah, like we're basically in spring now, or very close. And this is a game that is like a side-scrolling. It's grayscale. You play as a samurai, and it looks like sort of a 2D version of Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
And I'm super into it, and I will definitely play this game. It's probably just a digital download, but at some point it'll get one of those like limited run physical releases, and I will definitely pick that up.
Did you play Returnal since you have a PS5?
I played a little bit of it, not very much. So I got my PS5 at a weird time when I was in the middle of like 3 other games, and so it was very hard for me to like set those aside and like try to put time into Returnal. And so regrettably, that was a game that I picked up and ended up not putting very much time into. I don't know if this is going to pull me back into it, just because, again, I'm in the middle of like 3 other games, and I mean, I think it's cool though, because it's update 3.0 that's adding campaign co-op and a survival mode, and it's supposed to be free on March 22nd. So that's pretty awesome. It would be something that I would try out, the campaign co-op, if, say, you were playing it, but I don't think this is out on PS4.
Yeah, I don't have PS5 yet, unfortunately.
You gotta get that PS5.
And then they ended the state of play, with 2 games that I did not super care about, unless you want to talk about them. The Diofield Chronicle and then Valkyrie Elysium.
Diofield Chronicle was like sort of a tactics game, maybe sort of like a Final Fantasy Tactics style game.
Tactics, but it's not on a grid. It's just kind of, you're running around, kind of like, what was that Aliens one? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure I do.
That one where like aliens invade Earth, and then it is a tactics game, but it's not super on a grid. It's
XCOM?
like XCOM. Yeah, it's like XCOM style.
I thought you meant like Aliens, the franchise Aliens. Oh. It's like Alien Tactics. And then Valkyrie Elysium is like supposed to be, I think it's the same franchise as Valkyrie Profile from way back when. But yeah, neither of these games really did it for me. I'm not super interested in either of them, but somebody somewhere is.
Let's talk about, we're almost going to talk about Elden Ring, but before we do, you purchased that Undying Moon game, right? And you started playing that?
Yeah, Getsu Fumaden. So this, for my birthday, I got an eShop card, and I was like, well, I've been thinking about getting this game, so I'm just going to dive right in. And it's definitely, look this up. It's going to be hard to spell because nobody knows how to spell Getsu Fumaden. But if you just sort of try to make some sort of spelling out of that and just put in Undying Moon after it, it'll autocorrect for you, or like search results will help you out. But the trailer for this thing you have to see, because the visual style of it is amazing. Now, it's a 2D side-scrolling sort of Dead Cells-like roguelite game. But it does have some of those sort of Hades style, like you, after a run, you go back to a hub world and you can like purchase like permanent upgrades. So it does have some of that addicting nature to it, where you're like, okay, I just want to work on upgrading some of my permanent upgrades before I go back out again. But it's a weird thing where the game doesn't tell you that in order to like bank the resources you pick up in a run, you have to like, if you keep going and you die, you like lose them. There is a permanent upgrade you can get that will allow you to keep like a certain percentage of what you pick up. So you should probably work on that. But like, there's a second option where like once you beat like the first boss, you get some drops that you can pick up. And then you kind of run to the right a lot, and it side scrolls for a little bit. And then there's like a gate that you can enter to go into like level 2, basically. But what the game doesn't really tell you is that, or maybe I just missed it, you can run past that, and there will be like an option to return to the hub world.
Oh.
Where you can like, and if you do that, you bank all the resources, so you will not lose them. And then you can, so it's almost a good option in the early going to just like clear that first boss and just immediately go back to the hub world and just like run that multiple times until you sort of, because you can get multiple flasks. I think you start off with like maybe two or three flasks to replenish your health with, and then but over time, as you bank those resources, you can buy an upgrade to increase the amount of flasks you can carry and to increase your overall health. And you can actually start increasing every weapon as well. And so you can sort of make it so that you will, the weapon drops you get are beefier. And so it's kind of like Dead Cells and Hades, where as you're going through, you're getting drops and you're like swapping out weapons and all of that. But I really like it. I had a lot of fun with it. I've gotten to a point now where I can pretty regularly beat the first 2 bosses before, but I haven't even gone into the 3rd area yet. I just go back and bank all my resources because I'm working on building up some of those permanent upgrades. But yeah, the art style is great and I'm really into it, but I have been too busy playing more Elden Ring to spend too much time with it.
How is your Elden Ring experience going? Last week we were both kind of off and on about it.
Yeah, so it's been growing on me more and more the more I play it. And I think a lot of it is like the progression that I'm getting, not just in terms of like leveling my character and upgrading my weapons, which is very, very important to it. But just like learning how to play the game myself. And so like in the early going, I was following the advice that people were like, everyone said, like, if you enter an area and they're like tough enemies and you're struggling, just don't bang your head against that wall. Oh, or if you run into a boss that's like killing you super quick and you're struggling with it, don't just repeatedly fight it and get turned off by the game and leave. Go the other direction. It's an open world. You can explore anywhere. And I was like, well, okay, I'm doing that, but then I just go to a different area where I'm getting destroyed. And so it was just sort of a weird thing where no matter where I went, I was constantly running into that brick wall. And I was like, am I ever going to get to a place where it feels like I am strong enough to be anywhere in this world? And I am happy to report that I am definitely rounding that corner. And it's starting to feel better and better. And my character is getting stronger and stronger. And now, as I continue to explore sort of the initial like 2 or 3 areas that you can get to from basically the start of the game, I went from dying at Margit the Fell and dying at the NPC invaders and dying at one of these other world bosses and like all these other enemies to now I am like destroying all of them.
Really?
And so
what weapon are you using?
So I started as a samurai, and so I'm still using the Uji katana, which is the katana you start out with, and it has like this really good unsheath ability that you start out with. And I am really enjoying that play style, but I'm also like finding some other weapons. So like I took out you go to this one area and there's like, I think it's like the Bloodhound jail. It looks like a manhole cover and you like interact with it and this like boss pops up and like initially he was super tough. Like I must have tried it like 10 times and I died every time, and I just felt too slow and like I wasn't hitting hard enough and he was moving too fast, and I was like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to beat this guy. But I came back to it much later and I killed him pretty easily. And his weapon I've heard is very good. So I put some more points into strength so that I can use it, but I haven't tried it out yet because I've been mainlining the Uji katana. But yeah, I've been going through, like I went to Castle Morn and I cleared the final boss of that area. And like, also, I can't tell you enough how important summons and leveling up your summons are, because they are the difference between like you banging your head against a boss like 10, 15 plus tries and before you finally kill him, and like killing him in one shot.
What's the summon that you use? Did you use that jellyfish?
No, I use the Godric soldiers. Which is not hard to find. I think that they might have even been in that guide that I sent you. But there's two of them, and one of them's ranged, and the other has a sword and shield, and he like gets up in the enemy's face and will hit them, and so they basically steal all the aggro, and I just like do jump attacks until I kill the boss, or I use the unsheath ability on him, and yeah, like I killed Margit the Fell in one try, using the Godric Soldier's summon, and yeah, like whenever I've come across a boss that I struggled with on my own, if I brought the summons with me, like they go down pretty easy. So it's a huge difference using summons. So if you're struggling, I definitely recommend doing that. But yeah, no, it's like I keep seeing videos pop up in my recommends about get this like really cool weapon, or get this like go to this area, or like I'll be watching a stream and I'll like see somebody talking about a different build they're working on. Like I saw somebody was streaming the other day, they were doing like a Wolverine theme where they had those like blade claw things.
Oh yeah.
And so that was interesting to watch as well. And it like every time I see like more people streaming or putting out videos, I'm always like, it makes me want to jump back in. It makes me want to try some different things out. And like we talk, like I think on our initial podcast where we first started talking about Elden Ring, we were both like sort of so on like the look of the game. And some of that was just because it looks pretty generic, like fantasy, like sort of Skyrim. Like it could be confused for Skyrim unless you're looking directly at the big golden like glowing tree thing. But I have heard that the more you explore deeper into the game and elsewhere in the map, that it starts getting way more visually unique. So you shouldn't necessarily judge it based on the initial like starting areas. But like I'm probably like 15 plus hours in at this point, and I'm starting to find that you could spend like just a ton of time just exploring the like first like 3 areas of the game. And so the map is pretty big and there's a lot to it, so I'm finding more and more stuff. Like I've cleared out more of those catacomb areas, so I've defeated a few more of those bosses. I took out that dragon, that first dragon that you find in that area.
Oh, in the lake?
Yeah, and I took out the like golden armored guy that's on a horse like right out of the gate where you start. And so I'm like, more and more of these bosses that I was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to take these guys out, I'm like killing more of them. And so that's starting to feel pretty satisfying. And of course it's making my character stronger as well. And I did that thing where you go get the consumable that gives you increased runes for a short period of time, and then I like use that teleporter to go like stand behind the giant dragon that's laying there and doesn't move, and I attacked him until I killed him and popped the consumable and got like a ton of runes, so I leveled up a bunch from that. And so yeah, I'm starting to really get into the game. So I feel like it's a little bit of Metroid Dread all over again, where it was like a new genre for me and I didn't really understand where I was going or what I was doing or what the game expected of me. And it like boss fights were difficult, and so I was dying a lot, and I was very frustrated in the early going. But then I just like was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna like devote some time to this, and like I'm starting to turn the corner in a similar way that I did with Metroid Dread, where suddenly I'm starting to get into it. So I think if you're frustrated initially, you should stick with it.
I have been enjoying it, but I have been enjoying someone playing it. I've been watching a streamer that I watch. He's been doing like 8-hour streams of it. And so I'll just like have that in the background as I'm doing something else on my computer. And that has been very enjoyable to me. And every time I watch him, I'm like, man, I should start playing this again. It's happened like 2 or 3 times where I do start doing it. And I think I am getting more into it, but it's also just like, I think I just want to watch someone play it. But I'm going to keep trying to play it. And hopefully I have not even attempted to fight that first boss yet. But I'm getting to the point where I believe that I can at least start going into that castle. And so I'm hoping that when that happens, I'll reach that tipping point where I stop watching someone play it and I start to actively engage with it. But I haven't reached where you are yet, probably because I just haven't played enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the game is very unwelcoming to new people to the genre, and you will feel like the game is just like too hard to sort of grasp initially. And it takes like, I would say, a good number of level ups, and definitely get some like smithing stones and upgrade whatever your weapon is, because that's like super important. And you'll eventually start to turn that corner, and you'll eventually learn the combat well enough that like you start to see like I said, initially, like every boss I ran into, whether it was like a world boss or that Bloodhound jail boss or anybody else, I was just like getting destroyed, and I was like, man, it does not feel like I'm even remotely close to being able to take this guy out. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it. And now, like I've taken out a bunch of bosses, still in the initial area, but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm learning the game fairly well and getting better at it, so that's good. And
do you think it'll be your game of the year?
I don't know. It's like, it's such a huge game, but I will say, like, since I started playing Elden Ring, I have not gone back to Horizon. Wow. And that was a game that I was enjoying when I was playing it, and certainly, like, Elden Ring story-wise is not doing it for me. Like, there's basically no, like, I'm not picking up on whatever the story is for this game, but maybe it's just because I've not made it far enough in and talked to enough NPCs just yet. But like, there's nothing compelling to me about whatever story is happening, and I usually like story or value that in a game, and the fact that this is not doing it for me is maybe a knock on it a little bit. Horizon, on the other hand, did have a story that I was interested in, and so that sort of points towards Horizon. But like, when it comes time to like, okay, I'm gonna play a game tonight, I'm going to Elden Ring, so it's hard to say. And I will say, it's fun to watch other people do other builds as well. Like you, I very frequently will just put on a stream of somebody playing it, and maybe they'll be in like an area that like I've seen before but I haven't really explored, and it'll make me want to go explore it myself. And it'll be interesting just to like see somebody else's build and how they approach things. So I don't know, it's one of those things where when I'm not playing it, I generally am thinking about it, and I'm generally consuming some sort of content, whether it's like a podcast about the game or like watching, you know, a stream or watching videos about it. And
it's such a juggernaut as far like you don't really watch TikTok, but my TikTok algorithm is like, or at least last week it was like 99% Elden Ring clips, where it was just like, here's a guide, here's something crazy happening. It's still, even right now, is I would say like 60 or 70% Elden Ring stuff. It's just so prevalent. It's so much in the zeitgeist. I really, unless something giant comes out at the end of the year, which who knows? I mean, Starfield supposedly is coming out, and Breath of the Wild supposedly is coming out, and also, fingers crossed, Silksong is coming out. But I don't know, man. This is just like, it's almost like when Animal Crossing came out and like everybody was playing Animal Crossing, even people that didn't play games were like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
It feels like that, where it's just like, it's on the tip of everybody's tongue.
It definitely feels like the kind of game that's having like a huge cultural moment with its release, where everybody's playing it and everybody's talking about it and everybody thinks it's amazing, in a way that you generally only get like maybe one or two games like that a year. And this is definitely one of the bigger ones. But I don't know, and it's not normally my genre is the thing, so I don't know if it's a thing where Starfield will come out and that's a game that is my genre and I fall in love with that game, and like recency bias makes me lean that way. But
I think that could happen, but also, I mean, they have said, I mean, maybe it will get pushed back, but Breath of the Wild 2 is supposed to come out this year, and I just feel like that is a time bomb that's going to come off.
Part of me doesn't believe that it will, but yeah, if it does, it'll definitely be the same feeling, but like later on in the year with a different game. And I'll say, I think like people have maybe given the open world of Elden Ring too much credit, where I think Breath of the Wild is a much better open world, because much more so than I've ever felt with Elden Ring. And maybe I just haven't explored far enough yet in the world, but like in Breath of the Wild, there was always something that I would see off in the distance. I was like, I need to stop whatever I'm doing right now and go investigate that. And it always felt like the game would reward me for that. Whereas in Elden Ring, if I see something off in the distance that interests me, which normally I don't have a problem just going to the next point that I'm trying to get to. I'm not usually distracted by something that's like super visually astounding that makes me need to go see what it is. But even if there was something, it's gonna be something that's gonna kill me. Or like,
that's what that Kyle Hilliard guy on the MinMax podcast, I think, put it really well, because he was like, in Elden Ring, if you explore, the reward for that is a boss, and you just have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And in Breath of the Wild, the reward for exploration is a puzzle, which is much more enticing to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like the one criticism, well, I guess there were maybe two criticisms about Breath of the Wild 1. The first being that the weapons got destroyed. But the second one was that there were only like basically 4 legacy dungeons. And I feel like that's something that they're going to rectify with this one. And so it's just going to be way more puzzles, and it's just going to, I don't know. It's fallen so far into the back burner because it seems like it's so far in the future, because we don't even have a name for it yet. But I'm very excited for it. It's just something I'm not really thinking about on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you have to give credit to Breath of the Wild for having puzzles, whereas Elden Ring is solely combat. Like, you get combat in Zelda, but you also have puzzles, and so there's some other element there to interact with that's not just combat all the time. So there's that, and yeah, it definitely felt more rewarding for that. But like, you weren't walking into traps and getting murdered, which is half the time how the game rewards your your curiosity, or you're just like, really? All right. So maybe that's just like, you know, subjective, or it's our taste versus like somebody who loves this kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely think Breath of the Wild's open world was way more compelling. And like, I like Jason Schreier because he's a good reporter, and he is one of the few like actual reporters in the games media, because he will, like, anytime there's like a big breaking news story from the games industry, it's generally him that has broken it, or he'll do like an investigative piece of some sort. So I gotta give him credit for that. But I disagree with him when it comes to Elden Ring, where he's like constantly praising the fact that there's no quest log and no icons, and he's like, that's what makes the game compelling and better than something like Horizon, where and I will say Horizon does too much. And like we talked about previously, there should be some sort of happy medium. But I have to laugh at him a little bit, because on his podcast, he was talking about how if it's something like Horizon, where there's a big quest log and there's icons everywhere on the screen that on the map, and you want to like, it feels like a little bit like homework, because you have basically a checklist of like items to find or quests to check off. He will get overwhelmed by that and just sort of fall off of it and probably not finish it. But with a game that's open like Elden Ring, and it doesn't tell you anything, and you could just kind of explore on your own. He also was tweeting when the game first came out that he recommended using a journal as you play the game. And so my only conclusion can be that he thinks that games should not include quest logs because he wants to write it himself. So I don't know, like the logic some people are applying to Elden Ring to give it praise sometimes does not hold any water when you think about it, but I get it. People love Elden Ring, they love the combat, and there is something to just, freedom to explore. But I feel like, again, maybe it's just my opinion, but I think Breath of the Wild did it better. But that's not. I think you're right. That's not to say that I'm not still very much enjoying Elden Ring. There was no quest log in Breath of the Wild, I don't think, right?
I don't remember. It's been
too long.
There definitely was like a thing telling you to go to each beast or whatever. There was a thing that said like defeat Ganon, I think.
Sure.
But it did not throw it in your face.
Yeah, but it's not like you would go to like a quest page or like a journal in your menu and you just had a list of all the quests you'd picked up, or like you go to a town.
So. It's been so long since I played it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So I feel like maybe Breath of the Wild was that happy medium that we were talking about.
Perhaps, yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's why I hold it in such high regard, but
it's one of the best games ever made.
It is. Got to give it credit. So what else have you been playing or watching?
So this is neither. Although I will say I watched the latest 3 episodes of that Our Flag Means Death, and that was great.
I need to start watching that.
It's very good. I'm thinking about building a home server, a NAS, and I've been doing research. We don't really talk about like tech stuff. Well, we kind of do on this podcast, but I landed on this platform called Unraid because you can use an old computer to do it. And it's something I'm excited about, and I've been watching a lot of videos on. And if I do end up doing this, maybe we should make a little video about it. But basically, it's a thing where if you have a bunch of old hard drives lying around, which I do from all of my previous jobs, you can just load all of those hard drives into a chassis and run this Unraid, and it basically becomes your own little home server where you can run like virtual machines or like Docker containers. And I've been looking for a way. I'm a little worried because my computer is a little old, the one I'm currently using, and it has a hard drive in it that is super old, and I'm worried it's going to fail at some point. I don't do any sort of backups right now. And so I was looking into like backup solutions, and there's a bunch of different options. Unraid, you do have to pay for a license for, but I think it might be worth it. It's basically, it runs off a USB, so you basically just plug the USB into a computer, boot to that USB, and then it recognizes all the disks in there, and then you can set up parity and whatnot. But it's pretty cool. And I also watched, I guess a thing that you can do is you can pass through video cards with this. So I do also have a few old video cards, and I saw a video where somebody was basically using an Unraid server as like a gaming computer, where like they had just like a little laptop, but then they would like remote into a VM that they had running on their Unraid server and like play games basically virtually, almost like their own contained version of Stadia. But it's interesting, and I think it's something I'm going to do a little bit more research on and then maybe start to set up. But if I do, I'd like to make a little video on it just as a tutorial, because there are a lot of Unraid videos on YouTube, but I feel like a lot of them are not what I'm looking for. And so I'd like to create a video that is the thing that I wanted to see. So maybe look forward to that on our channel.
Well, is it time for your parting wisdom?
I got a burger the other day from a restaurant, and I was like, man, I really want to eat this, but I have to go home first. And then I realized that I could just eat it in my car as I drove, which it sounds mundane, but it's something that I've never really done before. And so I realized that if you want to eat food in your car while you're driving, it doesn't matter if you get all dirty, because nothing matters. You can just do it. So if you want to just eat while you're driving, just do it.
That is sound advice. Although I do recommend being careful to always have at least one hand on the wheel.
Yes, definitely always have at least one hand on the wheel.
But yes, you're an adult. You can eat while driving, as long as you're being careful.
Just do it. I think that's what the Nike thing is all about.
That is what it is. That's where it originated. They were like, you know what? You can just eat while you drive, and we're gonna symbolically put that on each of our shoes with the swoosh. Yes. But yeah, this is like, so we were. I forget who I was talking to, but they were like, you know what? This one day I realized, if I really want to, I can just go to the store and pick up a box of cookies and eat it, and it's totally fine. Like,
it's true.
I'm an adult, I can make that choice. And they came to that realization, and they went to the store and bought themselves a box of cookies. And
let's be honest, society is collapsing. So at this point, if you don't have a big bowl of just like Take 5 candy bars next to your bed, what are you doing?
I mean, I don't know. It's a good question.
You got to take it where you can get it.
Definitely have something to enjoy. For me, it's going to be Elden Ring.
And for me, it'll be eating a Jersey Mike's sub while I'm going 60 on the highway.
A sub is even harder.
It's very hard to do, but you just have to embrace it.
This is your Elden Ring challenge. Like, for me, it's getting over the hump of this difficult game. For you, it's getting over the hump of this difficult eating strategy that you've come up with.
Yeah, I have to find a good like Ash of War that lets me
consume while driving. The Ash of War equipped to your steering wheel is consume food.
Now that's what I need.
But anyway, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you search for Starside Cafe on all of those places, you will find us. You can also go to starsidecafe.com. We have a website there. You can email us at starsidecafe@gmail.com, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.